Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you for making time to attend our Fireside chat this morning. So we're here to discuss the topic of AI as it applies to developer productivity, specifically the new wave of code generation tools such as Windsurf. For those of you that are already here, feel free to say hello inside the chat. Now, what's on the docket for today? We're going to discuss the general topic of AI code generation, compare and contrast some of the different solutions that are on the market, and also demo some of the capabilities of Windsurf in particular in just a little bit. After that, we're going to have Q&A, and in all likelihood, we're going to be done within 45 minutes. Now, I'd imagine some of you are unfamiliar with who Cognida.ai is, or who we are, rather. We are an AI solutions company founded about 3 years ago. The very simple version of our story is that we help companies, most commonly enterprise companies, find practical ways to adopt AI. There's various ways that we do that, from helping companies build their own AI infrastructure, or by helping introduce an AI tech stack through our partner network. For example, we're going to demonstrate Windsurf today. Windsurf is actually one of our partners. Now for some quick introductions. Ravi, is Sailesh not here yet?
Yeah, just in a second.
Okay, here we go. Perfect timing, perfect timing. Hello, Sailesh. So I was just about to get to introductions. Thank you very much. So on that note, let's go ahead and get to it. So for some introductions here. So I'm your host, Michael Moran. I'm the head of growth here at Cognida.ai. I'm going to be helping to moderate this discussion. After the chat, I also look forward to reaching out to some of you, hearing your thoughts, getting your feedback, hearing some suggestions for future topics. I would love to have that conversation. I'm also here with Ravi Mishra, our VP of Solutions Engineering. He's going to be interacting with you in the chat, so feel free to share your thoughts live, and we'll have somebody who's going to help commingle with you. In regard to my co-host, originally Gopal, our head of R&D, was set to speak, but he had a small personal matter to attend to. That said, we do have a very capable speaker with us today. I would like to introduce everybody to Sailesh Patra. He is one of Cognida.ai's senior architects and also a founding member of the company. Sailesh, is there anything you'd like to add to your introduction? How long have you been with Cognida.ai?
Yeah, thanks for the warm welcome here, Michael. And I hope I am very clearly audible to everyone. So yeah, I'm Sailesh Patra, and I'm a senior architect here at Cognida for been here since last 3 years. And I've been around in IT industry since last 8 years, and more primarily in the field of data science and machine learning. And being my role and responsibility here in Cognida is to make sure that we design and develop our products and solutions for our customers at a scalable and coming and live up to our tagline of practical AI for enterprises.
Okay, excellent. How long have you personally been using Gen AI for software development?
So I've been using Gen AI from the very first release that OpenAI did with Codex back in 2021. I think it was somewhere around summers, like June or July. They released something called OpenAI Codex, and that time it like be much more accurate or not, but at least what I played around with is the very first possibility of AI being used as part of software development for automatically generating code from natural language.
Okay. So it's safe to say that you're an early adopter. So I know this is not actually the case. I'm sure most people here are at least familiar with the concept, but for the sake of argument, let's assume some people in the audience are unfamiliar with what AI native IDEs are capable of. What makes these code gen tools like Windsurf interesting?
The AI coding tools like Windsurf are definitely transforming the developer workflows. They're just not writing the code, but they're handling debugging, testing, deployment all in one place, right? And so it is the flow awareness and the tracking of context across your terminal, browser, and editor. And it feels like, you're just coding, you're doing a pair coding alongside a senior teammate, right, at times. So that's a big productivity boost for our developers, which can definitely, who are at the time, as we speak, they're looking at a productivity boost of 4 to 9 times, right? But somehow I think the skepticism remains in the sense of many of our developers don't fully trust AI tool outputs, and they worry about any kind of hidden bugs. But I think that's more like a matter of practice, where with thoughtful use, the Windsurf lets engineers automate more while keeping humans in the loop in reviews and in judgment.
Okay, and I actually was going to ask you what are some of the challenges in adopting code gen tools, but I feel you just kind of did address them. That you mentioned their
Yeah.
skepticism, et cetera, et
Yeah,
cetera.
yeah. So yeah, definitely. So these are some of the hidden security vulnerabilities that exist. And
Mhm.
sometimes the inconsistent code quality become an issue because at the end of the day, we need to understand all of these productivity tools are powered by the very core language models, the large language models released by OpenAI or Google or Anthropic, right? And they rely on some kind of training data behind the as part of their model training.
Yeah, of course, and it's good to set caveats, set the right expectations. We're not here to act as if generative AI is magical or anything. That
Yeah.
said, you do plan to do a demonstration of Windsurf. My understanding is that you're going to create an application. What do you plan to show for the audience today?
So what we are going to do in our demo today, so I'm just setting the preamble context here that we are going to see how we can use Windsurf to, plan a particular development. And we'll see how Windsurf goes ahead in executing the plan. And then we'll see how it also reiterates on some of the feedback that we provide to Windsurf.
Okay, and my understanding is this demo is going to essentially be two parts. One part is you actually, create the actual prototype application, and then once
Yeah.
the app is generated, which in itself will be interesting, but after that you'll have several interesting features within Windsurf you like to demonstrate. Like once you have a bit of a code base in place,
Yeah.
like what kind of application are you planning on showing us today? Like what are you going to build?
So, how about this, right? We all like ordering food, right? And reviewing restaurants. So, how about we try to create something like a Yelp kind of website,
Yeah,
and we'll
of
see
course.
how I can just in matter of within this webinar, how can we create a website like Yelp? A very simplistic one, but just an art of possible to look
Yeah, no,
forward.
I mean, I feel like that's a very straightforward use case, and this should be interesting. So by all means, feel free to attend. And of
Sure.
course, quick reminder, please make sure that it's readable to the audience. Make sure the text size is, I'm not to be a nag. I'll let you get to it now.
All right. So let me share my screen in a second. So let me bring the Windsurf to the big screen that you're talking about, Mike.
Excellent. And yes, as a reminder for everybody in the audience, Ravi is attending the chat. So if you have any questions or comments as we go through this, by all means, like we do have somebody on watch. And also we will have a Q&A afterward as well for any more substantial questions. But by all means, feel free to contribute to the conversation.
Yeah. So you
Okay.
are able to see my screen?
Yes, it looks fairly readable to me.
Yeah. So let's say, so this is our Windsurf IDE. And what you can see here is on the Windsurf IDE, on the left-hand side, we have the folder file explorer, where you can have your entire directory structure. At the same time, you have some Visual Studio like IDE tools, like you can search for some keywords within the repository. You can have your source control actions, and you have your debugging and testing actions over here available. Any kind of remote connections can also be explored through these options. And let's say you want to add any kind of widget within Windsurf or any extensions you can install via the Windsurf store over here. And on the center space that you see here, this is where the coding and the actual coding happens, and all the files and related code is going to be visually visible here in the center section. And a very interesting and cherry on the ice, cherry on the cake here is the right side, which we call as Cascade. So Cascade is nothing but our interactive. It's an interactive medium where you can talk with the AI and agent, and in two modes. Either you can talk it in write mode, in which the agent is going to write the code for you and interpret the code for you, or in the chat mode, in which you can ask the agent to do any kind of, let's say, description, or you want to and you want an explanation for the code base. That's in the chat mode. And
Okay,
below that,
so
you see this small, yeah, please go ahead.
I mean, I was just going to comment. So it sounds to me like chat mode is kind of like safe mode, where it's consequence free. Like nothing bad is going to happen if you write a
Yeah,
prompt.
absolutely.
Once you enter write mode, like things actually start to happen.
Yes. So there is a possibility that in write mode, even if you're asking for an explanation and the AI model explores that while explaining it finds a bug, it's going to write that and do the code changes. You don't want that. If you want simply have a discussion with the AI agent or have a brainstorming activity or have a documentation, you can do that in the chat mode. That's a much more safe mode.
Okay.
And below that, what you see here in a drop-down, that's the drop-down for selecting the model. So these are the various models available for us to select from. And personally, I prefer Claude Sonnet 4 for coding because this is really good at putting in code for in various languages like Python, JavaScript, or C# or C++. And if it is related to any kind of UI and UX related development changes like visual feedback, I personally prefer Gemini 2.5 Pro, which is really, really good at creating nice CSS changes to UI UX elements.
Okay, excellent.
So
And you said that we were going to create a Yelp application, right?
yeah, absolutely. So let's get started with it. So let's say I type here, I want to create a Yelp like web application where I want to view different restaurants and their reviews. I also want to be able to add a new restaurant details in it. I want the now that's the broad preamble that I'm giving the AI model to go, work for me. The second direction that I'm going to provide to the AI model is the coding stack. For example, I want the UI to be in React using NPM and the backend APIs to be in Flask. Both NPM and Flask are already installed on my system. And the reason I type this because if I don't type this, the AI agent is going to assume that it is not installed, or it is installed, it's going to explore and it's going to consume some time in order to install and evaluate that on my system. Let us maintain the data in JSON files for now.
Okay, so you've
And that is
essentially
it.
defined a little tech stack for the
That's
prompt.
it. A little bit of tech stack and a broad directional guideline on how it should do, and nothing very specific. And I leave it to the AI agent's creativity in order to do that. So I do this and I hit enter. So
Once you were in
the very
chat,
first step, yeah, that's a chat interface that you see here. And the very first thing that you are going to see here is it is going to create a plan document. It is going to first of all think for a second, and it created a plan document like this, right? So in the plan document, if you see, it has captured the notes that the user wants to or intends to do. Along with that, it created a task list, and there is a subtask list under the task list. Why it created like this? Because it is always plan, think, execute, review. Plan, think, execute, review. So what it is going to do is, first of all, it created a plan and you see those lists over here. Now it is going to go through each item in the list and then think over it and then execute each item. And after executing each item, it is going to review those items against the list and see if there are any dependencies that needs to be resolved. And it is going to head back to that.
Okay, and so how much? It's not like in transparency. What we're basically doing right now is prototyping. I'm not assuming that a fully functional production customer-facing application.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's just prototyping, correct?
Right, of course. But how much cognitive workload are you kind of saving because of this planning process? How much time? What's the most valuable aspect of this right now? Like, where's the real value being delivered for you as a developer?
Well, as a technical architect, the most value that it delivers right now is doing quick POCs for some of our customers who have very varied use cases, right? And they want something not just on PPT, but they want something actually functioning because that's what creates impact. So imagine now our developers being capable to create a quick prototype to explore or showcase the art of possibility. Let's say you have some of the basic capabilities with you in form of APIs, but there is a customer demo, or there is a sales demo that is going to happen, and you want to show something stitched together and working actually, right? So
Mhm.
that's the lowest hanging fruit that can be easily solved using this.
Right, but at the same time, like it's also going to handle certain tasks for you that if you were working on a live project with one of our customers, there would be
Mhm.
certain dependencies you would have, correct? Such as developing UI, et cetera, et cetera. Those are things that would be bottlenecks for you in a live project, but during the prototyping phase, this is kind of being offloaded for you so that you can worry about kind of the core logic, right?
Absolutely. So in the prototyping phase, this is going to reduce a lot of time. But as you rightly said, on the production phases, or let's say you have a legacy code already in place, where this tool comes handy is, first of all, understanding what is written in the code base, understanding various modules, right? Because for a developer, of course, in production code, you have documentation, right? And at the same time, apart from the documentation, you have inline comments and inline documentation in place.
Mhm.
But for a developer, it's a very high degree of learning curve, and to ramp up on all kinds of knowledge transfer aspects, and that takes a lot of time. So instead of that, you know, our developers can simply use AI tools like this and go ahead and have kind of interaction and understand various modules that exist into a production code already, instead of, starting from scratch and understanding each of them line by line.
Excellent. And how far along are we? Because I see the checklist is actually marking itself off live.
Mhm.
It looks like we're actually, pretty far along already.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you can see here, there's a lot of changes, and things are already in place here, as you can see. So we are going to continue with the response and see what's the next action item it provides us to do.
Yeah, yeah. And it's actually you gave it fairly limited instructions and it's making a lot of inferences here. It
Yeah.
seems like it's coming to logical, like not, like LLMs don't actually think, but it is coming to conclusions about what you would need to make a Yelp. So that is impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. And instead of only just writing, we'll also see how it goes ahead and prompts us to, do the execution and run the application at the same time. So, which is also going to be evaluation. And also one interesting thing about this kind of coding assistant is that we have a functionality called browser built into this. So now we can see here our application is installed, and on our application we can see our notes are also generated, our task lists are also generated. Now it is going ahead and looking for all the changes in the application. So I'm going to prompt it to run the application.
And it got right past your typo as well.
Oh, this is in the chat mode actually, so give me a second. We actually did all these things in the chat. Please execute all the changes now that we are in the right mode.
I noticed that you also say please to your LLMs. That's very polite of you.
So that's natural, that comes into our
Yeah,
typing, right?
I'm just
Yeah.
poking a bit of fun. Don't worry about it.
Absolutely. But that's one more thing that also we need to keep in mind, that the training data behind a lot of these LLMs are having this kind of connotation. Like training data has information like, okay, users are going to use the word please, and can you, and could you please, right? So these are
Mhm.
the phrases that language models training data are captured and tuned towards.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now you see, very interestingly, when we started the discussion and I gave the direction, I was in a chat mode, right? It did everything in memory, and we got into the discussion about how it is executing the plan, right? But now I moved it to write mode, and I asked it to, please execute all the changes now that we are in the write mode, and it is executing all of these changes. And you can see it has created the backend folder. It has now created a front end folder, and it is putting all the files back into the execution.
Okay. And it looks
So
like we're getting close to the finishing the first half of the demo where we actually have the application to show. And after that, we're
yeah,
going to show certain features of the platform, correct?
yeah, absolutely. We'll go through some of the features of the platform, and we'll see some capabilities like autocomplete or super complete and some of the other features at the same time. So while this generates, one thing I think we need to note here is it is now, you can see it is not creating or doing any kind of code generation right now. It has already gone to a stage of creating the files. The reason being that is an inherent capability of maintaining a memory for a session, right? So while it is keeping the memory intact for a session, it is now fetching all those code for those files and putting them into actual files from the memory.
Okay.
Yeah. But having said that, there is another feature in Windsurf, which is a very unique one, which is like a no data storage configuration in Windsurf, which complies to the data security at the same time here, Mike. So not only the user prompts, but also the responses and the responses in terms of the textual responses, and also the code being generated and interpreted. These are all configurable in the Windsurf, where you can decide that I don't want this to be part of any kind of training data for any kind of model training, right? So Windsurf is not going to persist this data for their model training.
Okay. Yeah, I'm like we're going to ask a couple questions after the demo as well about things like security.
Yeah,
But I'm sure that's something top of people's minds. So thank you for kind of mentioning that in advance, because I'm
yeah.
sure things like intellectual property have they're one of the primary concerns with this technology, and not all platforms are built the same when it comes to protecting intellectual property.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you
Okay.
can see here, now we are going ahead and creating a file called README. So this is the README that was created, and you can see, so in this README, it has captured all the changes that is going to come for Yelp, like application. So it has described the tech stack, which is front end, it is in React, and it uses React Router and Axios, and in backend is in Flask, and it install a module for CORS for any kind of cross-domain responses and requests. And the data storage is currently being happening in the JSON files. And the styling is with modern CSS with gradients and animation.
Mm-hmm.
So now let's install the application. So it is now prompting me a command to install the application. So I'm going to click on accept, and it goes
Okay.
ahead and clicks on install and starts the
Okay.
installation of the application.
Yeah. Let's see what we get. You were showing this to me yesterday, and I am curious to see if it looks similar to what you produced with similar prompts before, if it's going to look different. Yeah, let's
Yeah,
see.
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for everybody for your patience as we wait for this to load up. And as a reminder, if you have any thoughts or questions, feel free to contribute in the chat. Ravi is currently on it, and I believe answering questions live.
While we wait for the installation to complete for some of the Windsurf related, commands over here, let
Mhm.
us go through some of the Windsurf inbuilt capabilities in place, right? Now, we saw that we created API to create restaurant and view the restaurants, right? And that's what you get here. So this API over here is for viewing the restaurant, and this API that you see here for post request, it is for adding a new restaurant. Let's say I want an API where I want to say, for example, apart from restaurant reviews, I want to say that I want to, for example, add an let's say stars to the restaurant, right? Or give some thumbs up or thumbs down. Let's say
Mhm.
thumbs up or thumbs down, right? So I'm going
Right.
to add a new API, and let's see how Windsurf assists me while doing that. So I'm going to write a comment API to add a star to a restaurant, right? The moment
Mhm.
I do that, you see it suggested automatically. The moment I type star, it suggested me to complete it to a restaurant. Why? And it's because it understands that we are talking about creating a Yelp-like application for a restaurant, right?
Right.
And then it automatically filled up this application, this code, which is going to be a API restaurant ID and star, and automatically it added the code for that. And I'm going to simply press tab, and there you go.
Okay.
Okay. Now apart from that, let's say I want to use some of the module which is going to be resulting in a new import. For example, PD equal to pd.read CSV data restaurant.csv. The moment I do that, it suggests me the next action item, which is going to be for pandas data frame related changes over here, which is going to interpret the restaurant IDs and ratings by 1, right? And the next tab I have to do simply is to do restaurants to the CSV, and I just press another tab, and that's it.
Okay.
Yeah? So all I did was tab, 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 and it completed the code.
Okay. And what's next?
So what's next is, while it is waiting on running a terminal command, let's do one thing. Let me run the terminal command for this application right off the bat from my Windows Explorer. So let me just open it through that. Yeah, so this is our repository, and let me go ahead and run this. So let's say app.py, I'm going to run the application. So that's the backend application running, and I'm going to start the front-end application. And I'm going to do an npm install to install the node packages for the front end. It should be very fast.
And everything you're installing right now, this is everything that was just written on the fly right now by
That's correct.
Not
by
Windsurf. Technically, Windsurf didn't write it. It was technically the Claude that wrote
it. It was technically the Claude. Windsurf, so basically Windsurf and orchestrated the responses from Claude into the code editor in a way that it is understandable as a Git repository.
Okay.
Yeah. So now that it is installed, I'm going to do an npm start to start the application. And there you go. So yeah, there you go. This is the application that you see here. And in this application, you see it created something called Yelp clone. And you have some of the existing restaurants. Let's look at one of the restaurants. Let's say I like Italian. So let's go inside that. You can see authentic, all this data that got filled in were also kind of very much relatable to what data of a restaurant was curated, right? So all of this data that got curated also makes sense, being even if it's a POC application or a demo application. So let's go back to the restaurant and let's click on add restaurant. So the moment we get into add restaurant, it asks us for a restaurant name, let's say demo restaurant. And the cuisine type is going to be, for example, let's say Japanese. Address is going to be 881E Main Street, CA, and let's give a phone number and a description. Awesome Japanese food. And I click on add restaurant and see the restaurant got added successfully, and that's the restaurant that we just added. And let's write a review to that. So let's set the name over here.
Okay.
And the rating.
Yeah, I was actually I was half expecting that when you clicked on that button, there would be no business logic until you corrected it. But it sounds like out of the gate. Okay, so there.
Yeah, there you go. Now you see, it was able to add a restaurant, but it was not able to add a review. And if we see the error, you see this is the error that came up, that this error happened because while executing under adding the restaurant review. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to Windsurf and I'm going to stop the current process, accept all the file changes, and I'm going to say, I faced this error while adding a review in the application. And I'm going to paste the review. That's it. And let's see what it does, right? So what it is going to do now is I've not told it where the error happened. I just told the error that happened when clicking on add review from the UI, and that is it.
I can
You
see
see?
the issue. Okay.
Yeah. Add review function, it is trying to access restaurant ID as a keyword, but Flask, the API expects a certain different kind of argument to be in place in the URL. So immediately it did the changes, as you can see here. I can click on accept the changes, and it explains, you can see it goes ahead and explains what went wrong and what was the correction that it did. And after that, all the changes are in place. We simply have to restart the server, which already it did, and the UI is also restarted. And we go ahead and add this review again, and you see now the review got submitted successfully and it is in place. So if I have to go back to restaurant, in the restaurant list, our demo restaurant is in place with 1 5-star review.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and out of curiosity, how much more would you like to show? Because I know there were a couple of things you wanted to, but I also want to be mindful of time.
I think what we covered here is from design plan, then design and the develop, and then test application, test part of it. There's another part of it called for deployment, which we can cover on a later webinar on see how coding assistant tools like Windsurf can also automate the coding deployment for CI and CD. But for now, I think let's take on with what we saw today.
Okay, sounds great. In that case, let's kind of ask a couple more questions of you, and thank you for your time at the demo. And then
Sure,
from there, we
absolutely.
will get to the Q&A. So one thing is that we have spent a lot of time talking about Windsurf in particular, which does make sense. We were using Windsurf as the vehicle to do the demonstration. That said, there are other platforms out there. So like maybe you can kind of give us some points of discussion, some points of contrast between the different platforms like Cursor, Copilot, Windsurf. What are some things you would bring to the attention of the audience? Like, what are some things that they're all good at or not good at?
Well, to be honest, platforms like Cursor and GitHub Copilot, apart from Windsurf, all of them are good in their all of them have their own strengths. But where Windsurf has a much better edge here is the cascading memory context that we have. And apart from that, the capability for Windsurf to utilize something called a browser-based feedback for UI applications. I think that's a huge bonus that we get in Windsurf, and the intuitiveness of understanding that, okay, now it is switching to browser automatically. Because many times, as a developer, every time you do a change, your just a coding feedback is not enough. You need to understand the UI feedback also, how it looks, what's the color, is the color contrast enough now for the readability of the text on top of it, right? So these are some of the changes that Windsurf can facilitate on top of using a browser within the coding editor.
Okay, sure. Okay, and so I kind of I kind of forecast this earlier, but because I think I also noticed some questions along these lines as well in the chat. So what about intellectual properties? What solutions do or do not make sure to protect your IP and your sensitive information?
So when coming to the intellectual property, Mike here, right? The first thing is, yes, both. So let's talk about Windsurf here, right? So Windsurf offers, robust protection for the company's intellectual property, tailored for sensitive and regulated industry. It is SOC 2 Type 2 compliant and FedRAMP certificate certified, along with HIPAA compliance for healthcare uses. For enterprises, Windsurf enables zero data retention mode, so that's which is by default enforced in Windsurf. So your
Okay.
code is never going to be stored on any of the servers, or it's never going to be used for any kind of training for all of these LLMs. and it stays in memory for the duration for that particular session only, just like we saw today. We gave a command, it executed everything, but it was in a chat mode. So everything was in memory. And when I asked it to write back it to files, it simply did it because it maintained the context of the memory. But if I close the Windsurf and expect the same thing to happen, it's not going to happen because the memory is lost for that session. It's a new session altogether. So Windsurf
Okay.
supports this thing. And coming to the deployment part, right? Because that's where the intellectual property discussion also happen. Windsurf also supports hybrid and self-hosted deployment. So you can keep
Okay.
all your sensitive codes, audit logs within your infrastructure, and any kind of advanced attribution filters that prevents leakage from non-permissive open source code is also taken care. And basically all the generated code from the AI assisted coding to assistant here remains within your organization's premises or network security.
Right, right. And so Cognita works with many enterprise customers where
Yeah.
rather than simply take the vendor at their word that your intellectual property is secure, they simply go straight to self-hosting, which is an option with Windsurf and may not be an option with all platforms. Thank you
Yeah,
very
yeah,
much.
absolutely. Absolutely. Windsurf now also has self-hosting option, and you can it offers in fact both options for self-hosting. Either it's a hybrid hosting or it's a fully self-hosted deployment option.
Okay. And final question before we get to the Q&A. In your opinion, what new risks come from relying on AI for coding?
Well, see, the AI coding tools, they can introduce new risks like hidden security flaws, if I may say, and
Mhm.
subtle bugs, and a code that looks correct but actually does not work as intended, right? Just like we saw in the demo today. And we thought
Yeah,
that the ad review, which is a very simple API, will work correctly, but it had some kind of mismatch in terms of what UI is expecting versus what API is expecting, right? So,
right,
so
right.
that's one thing. One thing that I'm seeing within my team and across multiple other teams from in different companies is that what I call as brain aging, right? So the developers with sharp minds, their skills start getting eroding because of mental fatigue that comes in over the time while using coding tools like this. Because at some point of time, you will feel that, okay, if I just give a prompt, everything should work as expected. And that results in some kind of a mental fatigue down the line. And eventually, it results in something called as brain aging. So somehow we need to keep our minds sharp, our wits strong, and our coding capabilities. So coding capability is one tool, but if any other way, I think we just have to keep our mind sharp.
Right. So it can potentially have an impact on critical thinking skills. And
Yeah.
critical thinking is what you need to be able to effectively utilize these tools in the first place, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Like even for critical thinking, if a customer asks a question and you have to respond back, today we have seen situations where they eventually go and ask the same thing to the language model or a AI model that, hey, this is a question. I need to answer that in a most human-like form, or I want to answer this in a most professional form, and they plead to the LLM that, okay, you need to answer it like this.
Yeah, yeah. It being in customer facing roles, I notice
Yeah,
this very much myself.
yeah, yeah.
You can tell who's relying on the technology and who is kind of utilizing their experience, as it were. So thank you very
Yeah.
much, Sailesh. I thought that demo was quite intriguing. At this point, we are nearly done, but now it's time for Q&A. Ravi, I know that you've answered some questions live. I don't know if there's any additional questions the audience would like to ask directly to Sailesh. But now's the time. If anybody has any questions, feel free to share them. And Ravi, in the meantime, perhaps you can kind of share kind of a high level for me and Sailesh. We haven't had time to like look at the chat. What's maybe been going on in chat that we haven't seen?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. From on the chat side, a lot of questions came in. Some of the questions were about a very specific use case for way.com, where they have a Yelp-like service for automotive sector.
Mhm.
So idea was the question about how leverage AI to, improve. AI could be used in general. There were other questions about data retention policies of Windsurf, Cursor, and others. So
Mhm.
that's another question. Third one is about security. So a lot of, for example, Way.com's customers are oil and gas. So naturally, they have they are conservative when it comes to data and security. So how Windsurf or Cognida solutions stack in those environments. So and the fourth question was from Varun, where he asked about the models itself. So sometimes these tools, as per Varun, go in loop where they're basically not able to, yeah, it becomes recursive in nature almost. So, and the only way to get out of it is closing the window, if I may. So, was there any suggestions there? So, those were kind of four questions or four topics that came up. To
Okay.
summarize, how I can help a website like way.com, security for enterprise, tools where they loop. So those are kind of few questions that came up.
Yeah, of course. And for anybody that we feel that we can offer assistance to, Cognita is a consulting company. We can always be sure to kind of follow up and explore avenues of collaboration as a next step after this. As mentioned as well, like as a host, I'd be happy to chat with people after and ask what their thoughts were on the webinar. If there's anything that they find would be an interesting topic in the future, we do plan to continue doing this. If you are local to the Bay Area, we plan on doing in-person events as well. But yeah, are there any additional questions?
There's one more question that came from Mitch.
Okay.
Mitch is asking, what measures do you use to avoid introducing vulnerabilities, and how do you address source code attestations for SBOMs?
Okay. So Ravi, Sailesh, among the two of you, like which would you like to field that?
Yeah.
Shalin, you want to
So
take that?
yeah, sure. So for the vulnerabilities part, I think one thing that we do here is something called audit, right? So we can prepare literally a plan audit approach for the code, and the audit approach for the code can be set on some of the matrices that we decide. And on top of that, in the audit approach, we can decide whether to go file by file or even go at a directory level or at a module by module level. So in the audit approach, typically what we do in our team is coming to, let's say, API vulnerabilities, right? So we do auditing in terms of if any of the requests are open-ended, and if, let's say, there is a DDoS attack on a particular API, right? So how is that API is going to respond? Is enough are enough guardrails in place to handle something something similar scenario in place or not? So that's an auditing capability that is also, that LLM helps us to plan in a platform like Windsurf. And what is the other question again, Ravi?
The second question, give me a second. It's about how do we address source code attestations for SBOM, software bill of materials, SBOM.
Okay. So let's say if so is the question related to, let's say we use any kind of open source repository as an inspiration, and we want to have some kind of attestation as, okay, this is the reference that we used.
Mike, sorry, Mitch, I don't think if we can talk, but at a high level, the way I understand it is, there are a few things we can do when it comes.
Mitch did answer. He said the code that is generated.
Yeah, so essentially there are a couple of suggestions for SBOM source code attestation. One is, can we use cryptographic signature signing of SBOMs, automated attestations, build some process. There are also SBOM standard compliance formats like Cyclone DX or SPDX, so those things could be used. So it's kind of a detailed topic, but yeah, I guess at a high level using digital signatures, and cryptographic hashes, and having a process around them where we do the audit, compliance, automated code scanning, peer reviews, patch management, following the standards such as OWASP. Those are a few things we can do.
Okay, thank you very much. It looks like we don't have any additional questions. So everybody, thank you for your participation. This is the first webinar that we've done. We very much appreciate that you've made some time for us. We will do these in the future. As mentioned, we are local to the Bay Area. We love to network and host additional events if you also happen to be local. But that said, everybody, thank you very much for your time. We're just about, oh yeah, Bradley. Oh yeah, Bradley. Yeah, I connected with you on LinkedIn. You're in the Bay Area. Yeah, I will totally keep you in mind for future events that we are hosting. And everybody, we are at about 45 minutes, which is what we suggested. Thank you, Mitch. I'll contact you as well on LinkedIn. And yeah, everybody, thank you very much for your time. And we will go ahead and let you go, and we will announce future events to you very soon. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a great day.